Sairam students, let's begin with the class 8 political science. We are doing chapter number 7 of political science, that is understanding marginalization. Children, today we are doing the part 3 of this chapter. Let's go through the content. In our first session, we have seen the introduction as well as we saw the one fictional case of the Adivasis family, right? Story about their family. Then in the next section, the second section, you have seen who are Adivasis and the stereotyping. Now today we are in this session, you are going to learn the topic Adivasis and development. But before coming to this, just have a quick recap of what we have learnt in the previous topic. In that topic, who are Adivasis? You saw the term Adivasi it is original inhabitants. And what does it mean? The communities who lived and often continue to live in close association with forest. Right? Then we saw around 8% of India's population is Adivasi. Right? And then we have seen there are over 500 different Adivasis groups in India, and these are in numerous states like the Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal, and northeastern states of Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, and Tripura. Then we saw about the tribal religion, right? That is, they were worshipping the ancestors, whereas the village and the nature spirit. So that is done in the way of mountain spirit, river spirit, animal spirit, and for the village spirit, they were often worshipping to a specific sacred grove or to the tree within the village boundary, right? And whereas for the ancestral ones, usually they were worshipping at home. This is what we have seen how they do. And we also saw like Adivasi religion themselves, they have been in dominant religions of the empires around them. For example, they participate in the Jagannath cult of Odisha as well as the Shakti and the Tantric tradition in Bengal and Assam. Then after that we saw the Adivasis, they converted to Christianity, which has changed the important religion in the modern Adivasi history. And then we saw the language of the Adivasi, that was the Santali, and that has the largest number of speakers as well as has a significant body of publications on including magazines that is on the internet, right? Then we saw the Adivasis and stereotype, like what was the belief of the people, what how Adivasis are invariably portrayed. That has been like they are always in the colorful costumes, they are the headgear, they keep on dancing. This is what that stereotypical ways that beliefs that the people were having. So there is oftenly wrongly leads to people believing that they are exotic, primitive, and backward, right? So now children, in today's session we are going to begin with the topic Adivasis and development. See, you have already read in your textbook, history textbook, forests were absolutely crucial to the development of all empires and the settled civilizations in India. See, children, you all know the life forests were absolutely crucial to the development of all empires, right? Why? Because of this, the development couldn't take place in the metal ores, and we know many things that comes from forest. That is metal ores like iron and copper, gold and silver, coal and diamonds, invaluable timber, even the medicinal herbs and the animal products, and even animals themselves. These all come from the forest only, right? But in addition to this, the continuation of life depended heavily on forest, right? Do you all agree with this? Yes, definitely. That helped recharge many of India's rivers and is becoming clearer now, crucial to the availability and quality of our air and water. See, forest covered the major part of a country, that is till the 19th century, and the Adivasis, they had a deep knowledge of, see, because Adivasis, they know each and everything of forest, so they have the deep knowledge of access to as well as the control over most of these vast tracts, at least till the middle of the 18th century. So this meant that they were not ruled by large states and empires. Instead, often empires heavily depended on Adivasis. Why? For the crucial access to forest resources. Because they were the one who know each and everything how what is present where in the forest. That is the reason like even empires were heavily dependent on the Adivasis because they only know about the forest resources very well. So this is like we have seen radically contrary to our image of Adivasis today as somewhat marginal and powerless communities. But in the pre-colonial world, they were traditionally ranged as the hunter-gatherers and nomads and lived by shifting agriculture and also by cultivating in one place. See, this was the situation of the pre-colonial world. But although these remain for the past 200 years, Adivasis have been increasingly, they have been forced. How they have been forced? They have been forced through the economic changes, forest policies, and political force. See, since from last 200 years, past 200 years, they have been in the forest only. But they have been forced increasingly. Like that force has kept on increasing day by day. In what ways? By making some economic changes, by making some changes in the policies of the forest, and even by the political force that is applied by the state and the private industries. For what? Why they were forcing them? They were forced to migrate to lives as workers in plantations or at the construction sites or even in industries and as domestic workers. This was what they were asked to leave their forest and to live to migrate their life and live as the workers in the plantations, either at the construction sites or even in the industries and as domestic workers. So, for the first time in history, they do not control or they don't have much direct access to the forest territories. Now, this image has been given in your textbook here. It tells you about how this is a photo of the Niyamgiri hill that is located in the Kalahandi district of Odisha. This area is inhabited by Dongariya Khons, that is one of the tribe of the Adivasis, an Adivasi community. So Niyamgiri is the sacred mountain of this community. But what happened there? A major aluminium company is planning to set up a mine and a refinery here which will displace the Adivasi community. So they have strongly resisted this proposed development and have been joined by environmentalists as well. So the case against the company is also pending in the Supreme Court. So this case is going on. This is like how their life has changed. They have been moved away from the forest wherever the mines are required or some other things are available or the some factory some company has to be built up, so they were forced to move away from that particular places. So forest lands have been cleared for what? For timber and to get the land for agriculture and industry. So Adivasis have also lived in areas that are rich in minerals and other natural resources, but these are taken over for mining and other large industrial projects. So, what happened there? The powerful forces have often colluded to take over tribal land. Much of the land, much of the time, the land is taken away forcibly and the procedures are not followed. If we will go to the official figures, according to the official figures, more than 50% of persons displaced due to mines and the mining projects that are the tribals only. See, according to the figures that has been got from the official uh, person, that is like 50% of the persons those who have been displaced due to mines and the mining projects are the tribals, are Adivasis. And another recent survey report by organizations working among Adivasis showed that the 79% of the persons displaced from the states of Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, and Jharkhand, they are also the tribals. So we can say the huge tracts of their lands have gone under the waters of hundreds of dams that have been built in independent India. Now, in the northeast, their lands remain highly militarized. Now, what is that militarized, children? See, in the glossary, the meaning of this has been given here. Just have a look here in this. What is that militarized? Militarized means an area where the presence of the armed forces is considerable. So, what happened there in the northeast? Their lands remain highly militarized, and India has 104 national parks. This is what, as per the official figures, okay? It has been given here. 104 national parks that was covering 40,501 square kilometer, and 543 wildlife sanctuaries covering 1,18,918 square kilometer. So these are areas where tribals originally lived, but they were evicted from. Now you can understand how much space has been taken for all this thing, and the tribals, those who were living in this, originally those who were in this places, in this area, they were evicted from. When they continue to stay in this forest, they are termed as encroachers. When they were living in the forest, they were termed as encroachers. So losing their lands and the access to the forest means what? It means what? They have lost, the tribals lost their main sources of livelihood and food, right? Because they have lost the land, their land, as well as the access to the forest. It means they have to search for the new source of the livelihood and food. So that means, see now children, here Adivasis use around 10,000 plant species. This is just the information related to the Adivasis that they were knowing about the forest resources. That means approximately 8,000 species are used for medicinal purpose. This is what the knowledge that the Adivasis were having. 325 are used as pesticides. 425 plant species were used as gums and resins and dyes, and 550 as fibers, whereas 3,500 are edible. So this entire knowledge system gets wiped out. When it gets wiped out, when Adivasis lose their rights over the forest land. Now you're coming to this, once they have lost their lands and they have lost access to the forest, it means the tribals, they lose their main source of livelihood and food, right? So having gradually lost access to their traditional homelands, many Adivasis have migrated to cities. For what? For what they have to migrate to cities? In search of work, where they are employed for very low wages in local industries or at building or the construction site. Then what we can say, they thus get caught, what? In a cycle of the poverty and deprivation. So because of losing their access to the lands of the forest, they have caught themselves in the cycle of the poverty and deprivation. Now here we can say 45% of tribal groups in rural areas and 35% in urban areas live below the poverty line. So this leads to the deprivation in other areas. Even many tribal children, they are malnourished. We'll see the meaning of malnourished also, whereas the literacy rates among tribals are also very low. The malnourished means a person who does not get the adequate nutrition of food. So the children were suffering with, they were the tribal children, they were malnourished. They were not getting the adequate nutrition or food which is really required for them. So this was the condition of the tribals of Adivasis. Then we have seen when Adivasis are displaced from their lands, they lose much more than a source of income, right? This is what the problems that they faced. They lose their traditions and customs and even a way of living and being, right? So this is what some of the Adivasis they have told, that they took our farming land, they left some houses, they took the cremation ground, temple, well and pond. Then how will we survive? This is what one of the Govinda Maran, who was displaced due to a refinery project in Odisha. He has said all this. They took our farming land, they left some houses, they took the cremation ground, wells, ponds, temple, everything. So now children, in this way we have seen the problems that were faced by the Adivasis. They lost everything, then they have to search for a new source of income for them. Then here we can say there exists an interconnectedness between the economic and the social dimensions of tribal life. So destruction in one sphere, naturally it impacts the other also. So often this process of disposition and displacement can be painful and violent for them, right? This is what we saw in the today's topic, that is the Adivasis and development, the problems that were faced by the Adivasis, and then when they try to search for a new source of income for them, either in, but they get the very low wages and they have to adjust themselves for the livelihood and food, right? This is what was the condition of the Adivasis. So children, in our next session, we will be starting with a new topic, that is minorities and marginalization, as well as the Muslims and marginalization. So this is one of the group of where you have Adivasis is one of the community where we have seen the marginalization. That is a marginalized community, right? So children, see you in the next session with a new topic, that is minorities and marginalization. Till then, go through this topic and take good care of your health. Thank you.